Hello from North Carolina for the launch of the MT-10. God, this thing loves wheelies, and I really do like this bike. Welcome from Asheville, North Carolina for the US press launch of the Yamaha MT-10. You know the drill by now. I'm going to tell you what's good, what's bad, and what's iconic about Yamaha's newest street bike and the top of their MT or Masters of Torque model lineup. Let's start with the good. There are a whole bunch of changes this year, and I like just about every single one of them. This isn't a ground up refresh or anything like that, but more of an evolution of the previous MT-10, which goes back to 2017. If I'm allowed to oversimplify, this is a naked, more upright street sibling to the Yamaha R1 Superbike. But what they're really trying to do is change things in terms of materials used, intent, price point, that kind of thing, to make it more street friendly. So yeah, you can still take this on a track, but that's not really the desired goal here. What they want is something, a all-around street bike that's going to be coming in at around, or exactly rather, $13,999. That's $1,000 more than the previous version, but you'll see that you're getting your money's worth when I list out a bunch of these new upgrades. First though, I do want to clarify, when I talk about a street focus, what I'm really getting at is both an ergonomic comment as well as changes to the engine. So when you look at this versus an R1, obviously the styling is different, but you look at the frame dimensionally is the same when we're talking about rake and trail and that kind of thing. What's different is going to be the paint job on it, because now you're seeing a lot more of the frame versus on an R1 where it's covered up. And also there's just some small modifications in terms of where mounting tabs are going and that kind of thing. So the frame is very, very similar. The engine is also similar. You've got that CP4 cross-plane 4 crank motor. And what's going to be different here is a lot of the parts that are titanium and therefore more expensive in an R1 are going to be steel here. Things like the valves or connecting rods, crankshafts, that kind of thing. So obviously that's going to be cheaper, but also they weigh more, and what that does is it creates more inertia, and that is one of the things that helps this bike really excel in the 4K to 8K RPM range. That's what Yamaha's engineers were targeting. And when you're looking at the dash while you're riding, the tack actually between 4 and 8K, or about 5 and 8K really, lights up green. It's telling you it's in the happy spot. That's when that motor is going to lift the front wheel, and you're going to have the most fun with this thing. There are other changes that have been made for street accessibility. One of the things they did was go a little taller in the rear sprocket, so that's down from 43 teeth to 42. And Yamaha says that's going to help provide a little bit more control at small throttle openings when you're just coming off a stoplight or something like that. The engine gets a new exhaust and a new intake system, but really what you need to know, I don't want to bore you with every single spec out there, what you need to understand is that you're giving up a bunch of top-end horsepower compared to an R1, and you're trading that for street usability. So you're probably looking at about 160 horsepower, about 80 pound-feet of torque, and a motor that's really designed to enjoy when you're out in the back roads of North Carolina and Blue Ridge Parkway like we were enjoying today. Other changes I like, which are leading to that $1,000 price increase, are going to be things like the new TFT dash. It's a 4.2-inch screen that shows you all the information you're going to need and displays information that's being fed to it from a new 6-axis IMU. And that's really going to be one of the biggest things. If you are owner of a previous generation MT-10 and you're thinking about upgrading, it's probably going to be one of the things that pushes you over the edge, because that new IMU gets you all kinds of functionality: slide control, cornering ABS, advanced throttle traction control. You can also you'll also be able to adjust engine braking, lift control. It really is the electronic suite from the track-specific R1, but now available in the street sibling MT-10. So that's definitely a huge upgrade when it comes to the electronics package. Smaller things are going to be, a slightly redesigned subframe, a slightly taller seat. Now it's 10 millimeters higher and a little bit of a different shape. Although I will say it was surprisingly comfortable for me on the about 150 miles we did today. I really didn't have an issue with it at all. The pegs, I would say, are just a little high for my liking, but from an ergonomic standpoint, in terms of the ratio of your hips to the pegs as well as to the hands, this is a great sporty street bike layout, at least for someone in my 6'2" frame. Another thing I appreciate when it comes to new stuff for this bike versus its predecessor is going to be the quick shifter, which is now bi-directional. When you're really on the throttle, it works great. On partial loads, it's choppier than I would like, but it's still nice to have it. It does fundamentally work. And the KYB suspension front and rear, is fully adjustable. Today I found that I wanted a little bit more compression from the forks, I should say. So just go in there with a little hand tool, a couple of clicks, and you're all set. That kind of thing is greatly appreciated for different riding styles, different riding abilities, and it really just helps complement and make this bike a great all-rounder. Overall, I was really impressed with the MT-10 today. It's a wonderful street bike. It's not perfect. I think some of the bad things about the bike are thankfully small. One, I don't know why this is the case, but the key, it's recessed, the ignition location is recessed, and the clutch cable goes over and basically blocks it. It's like the smallest thing, but every time you try to start the bike, it's a pain in the ass. I don't know why they've designed it that way. Minor grievance, but it's still, every time you start it, it gets in the way. The other thing that I'm not a big fan of, this is more of a real complaint, the brake lever feel, it just isn't there for me. And that's really important with a bike as fast as this. There's a new Brembo radial master cylinder. It's still powering or clamping Advic calipers up front. And the nice thing is that the lever is adjustable and you can play around with it a little bit, which did help. But at the same time, I feel like there's just not enough bite for a bike that's this strong, this fast, this capable. I do wish it was just a little bit more aggressive. And there is a fix for that, or at least Yamaha has a fix for that. If you step up to the MT-10 SP, which we did not have access to today, that will come with braided lines as well as Öhlins electronically adjustable suspension, semi-active suspension. But there is a bit of a price increase for that. You're looking at $16,899 for the SP. But it's just something to keep in mind. The other thing, the last thing really that I don't care for is the styling. I know styling is subjective, but I'm really not sure what's going on here. I love this cyan storm, as they call it, paint job. I like the bright colors. I think it's exciting and different, but from an actual styling standpoint, especially up here in the headlight area, it just doesn't work for me. I feel like Yamaha has been making much better performing bikes that are also starting to kind of look worse, which is a little bit disappointing for me, but hopefully you don't feel the same way. Frankly, when I look at the front of this bike, it makes me think of that Transformers villain tiny robot from the first movie, which is going around making chirping noises all the time. But speaking of noises, that's actually where this bike stands out and where I get to talk about what's truly iconic about the Yamaha MT-10. This motorcycle has one of the greatest stock, not just exhaust, but also intake noises I've heard in a long time. A while back, I was reviewing what should be considered a competitor to this bike, the Aprilia Tuono V4. I think that is a wonderful sounding machine, but today this is pretty damn close, if not better in certain ways, because with this inline four, when you wind it out, you really do get this MotoGP sort of sensation. And one of the interesting things is going to be happening up here. So these side covers, this is something that's new for this year. These side covers are now functional air intakes, which lead into unequal length runners for the intake. On the previous generation, they were more of a styling element only. But now you've got these air intakes, and Yamaha has specifically designed vents up top that let you hear the intake noise better. And I can keep talking about it, or here, just listen for yourself. one day and roughly 150 miles with this bike, I think that it's probably the best of the Japanese roughly 1000cc hyper naked bikes, whatever you want to call them. Obviously it gives up a little bit of performance, especially in things like with braking or top end horsepower when you look at the European bikes, but those are significantly more expensive. For me, the happy medium would be something like this, just with slightly stronger front brakes, whether that's going to be with the braided brake lines that come with the SP, or maybe a caliper upgrade or something along those lines. Again, it's $13,999. The base model MT-10 is available in the Cyan Storm livery, or if this is too crazy for you, there's more traditional black. These are available in your local Yamaha dealerships right now. The MT-10 SP is going to be $16,899. Those are not available yet, which is why I didn't get the chance to ride one, but you'll probably see those in your local dealer in the next couple of weeks. Check out the written review for all the details I can provide you on this, and if you have any questions about something that I might have missed, please let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. As always, thanks for watching. Well, I regret not bringing you rain gear.